I've witnessed the whole cycle of life-changing injury, evacuating soldiers and local Afghans to hospital, flying home from Afghanistan with some of those critically injured.
The Sussex media frenzy has reached a point where it feels less like a stumble and more like a full-scale meltdown. It's as if the public narrative didn't just crack, it completely collapsed. And now, according to commentator Tom Bauer, Meghan Markle's carefully curated public image is facing its toughest scrutiny yet. For years, we've watched her craft a polished persona built on emotional storytelling, resilience, and the underdog arc that resonated with many. It was a compelling performance, no doubt, strategic, sleek, and executed with precision. But Bauer, known for his sharp and unapologetic biographical work, argues that the glossy narrative is meeting reality. Whether people agree with him or not, his take has undeniably intensified the conversation, pushing the spotlight onto the contrast between image and perception in a way that feels impossible to ignore. Now, I know you're all eager for more, but before we dive deeper, if you haven't subscribed yet, seriously, what are you waiting for? Hit like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell right now. Because what we're about to discuss isn't just another headline drifting around social media. It's the kind of commentary that even Meghan's most devoted supporters can't easily dismiss. When Tom Bauer weighs in, people take notice. He's known for digging into public narratives with a level of intensity that forces the world to pay attention. His take doesn't merely challenge Meghan's image, it shakes the foundation of the persona she's projected for years. From the fading Netflix buzz to the uncertainties surrounding her future projects, the question of what comes next hangs heavily in the air. Even ventures like American Riviera Orchard, remember the much-talked-about jam jars, have become symbols of a brand struggling to find footing. According to Bauer's research, the cracks in the image were forming long before the rest of us saw them. Whether one agrees with his conclusions or not, his analysis adds fuel to the growing conversation about how much of Meghan's public story was carefully curated and how much was simply unsustainable once the spotlight shifted. And now, with global attention sharpening, it's clear that the narrative she once controlled so tightly is no longer exclusively hers to shape. The time, Meghan's public image was at a crossroads, and many commentators argue she was searching for a new direction just as her Hollywood momentum appeared to be slowing. Analysts often point out that her relationship with Harry became a turning point, not just personally, but in terms of how she was seen in the global spotlight. Critics like Tom Bauer have suggested that she gravitated toward visibility, prestige, and reinvention, and that she carefully curated where she appeared and with whom. They also note her struggle to reconcile her past identity with the new royal expectations, especially as she pushed to redefine herself and her role. Bauer highlights moments where Meghan seemed eager to distance herself from her old life, embracing titles and status while reportedly dismissing the warnings about the responsibilities and limitations that came with royal life. According to this perspective, she believed she could rewrite the system rather than adapt to it, and ultimately envisioned a future back in California with the influence and platform she had gained. Commentators frequently contrast this with the image of William and Catherine, who are portrayed as committed to duty and tradition, making the divide in approaches all the more pronounced. As for Harry, many critics argue that the version of him we see today feels markedly different from the energetic, charismatic figure the public once embraced, and that the shift in his public reception reflects a wider fatigue with the couple's ongoing media narrative. Whether fair or exaggerated, these interpretations continue to fuel an intense public conversation about how the couple's choices reshape their reputations, and what direction their story goes next. Tom Bauer's latest commentary doesn't just point out inconsistencies, it lays out what he describes as a long-running pattern of image crafting, a strategy built over years with meticulous storytelling and emotional framing. According to Bauer, Meghan didn't simply embellish moments, she shaped them, curated timelines, polished speeches, and reframed memories in a way that supported a narrative of struggle and victimhood. He argues that she blurred the lines between authenticity and performance so deeply that the public could no longer tell where the actress ended and the Duchess began. And now, he says, that performance is faltering. In his view, Meghan never fully grasped that the admiration she received as a working royal wasn't purely for Meghan Markle, but for the institution she represented. Without that connection, Bauer describes her brand as slipping, an image colliding with reality. He points to the controversy surrounding the Lilibet name as a prime example, noting that the public reaction intensified when reports emerged that the domain had been purchased before the Queen was even informed. For many observers, that name symbolized something deeply personal to the late Queen, a childhood nickname used only by those closest to her, while critics argued that its rollout felt more like a branding exercise than a tribute. When the palace publicly contradicted Harry's claim that he had sought permission, it signaled a rare moment of firmness that fueled even more scrutiny. And for Bauer, one of the most defining pieces of this broader narrative is Meghan's strained relationship with her father, which he says reflects the wider theme of storytelling, reinvention, and selective memory that appears throughout his analysis. Whether one agrees with him or views his conclusions as harsh, his perspective has undeniably reignited the debate over image, reputation, and how the Sussex story has been shaped for the public. Tom Bauer paints a far more complicated picture of Meghan's relationship with her upbringing, arguing that the narrative she often shares about a difficult childhood doesn't align with the version described by those closest to her. According to Bauer's research, her father supported her at every stage: private schooling, extracurricular lessons, photography equipment, auditions, even her early career ambitions. Yet as Meghan stepped further into fame, that supportive figure didn't quite fit the polished, self-made persona she was crafting for the public. In Bauer's view, this wasn't just a family estrangement but a strategic reshaping of her backstory. Even the famed soap commercial activism anecdote, which she repeats in nearly every speech as proof of early activism, is questioned by Bauer, who says he found no documentation or independent confirmation of the incident and notes that her father reportedly couldn't verify mailing any such letter. To him, it symbolizes how storytelling and branding became intertwined in her public image. And when it came to the Oprah interview, a glossy, cinematic production that was meant to spotlight Meghan and Harry as victims of an unfeeling system, Bauer argues it had the opposite effect. He claims to have identified multiple inaccuracies, including the widely discussed secret wedding claim, which the Archbishop publicly clarified as impossible, and the implication that Archie was denied a title for discriminatory reasons, despite the title rules having been established generations earlier. For Bauer, these moments formed a pattern, a narrative crafted for emotion, but one that didn't always align with historical context or documented facts, ultimately fueling even more debate about how the Sussex story has been shaped, framed, and retold. Tom Bauer argues that even Meghan's emotional claims from the Oprah interview came under scrutiny, saying palace records painted a different picture regarding the support available to her, and suggesting that the interview ultimately damaged their credibility more than it helped. He points to the Australia tour, publicly a glowing success, as another example where, behind the scenes, staff allegedly described tensions and last-minute demands that clashed with royal protocol. According to Bauer, the real shift came when Meghan interpreted the crowd's admiration as admiration for her alone, rather than for the monarchy she represented, leading to frustration when she realized she would always rank behind William and Catherine in the royal hierarchy. Bauer claims this was the moment the long-term exit plan began, well before Netflix, before Oprah, before any public narrative of "we had to leave." One of his most explosive assertions centers on the Queen's funeral. While the world saw an image of unity as Harry and Meghan walked beside William and Catherine, Bauer states that their Netflix documentary, already complete and critical of the royal family, was waiting in the wings. He frames this as a calculated contrast between public warmth and private preparation for a media storm. He also links similar timing to Prince Philip's funeral, arguing that public gestures of unity didn't align with the couple's behind-the-scenes media projects. In Bauer's telling, these were not moments of reconciliation but moments of strategy, part of a larger pattern he believes is driven by Meghan's ambition and her fascination with Diana's global legacy. Whether viewed as harsh criticism or insightful analysis, Bauer's interpretation adds yet another layer to the ongoing public debate about image, intention, and the shaping of the Sussex story. Tom Bauer claims that Meghan's efforts to echo Princess Diana, from clothing and poses to emotional presentation, were not coincidences but deliberate attempts to draw from Diana's iconic image. even alleging that she and Harry approached Earl Spencer about adopting the Spencer surname for branding purposes, a request he reportedly declined. Bauer presents this as symbolic, suggesting Diana's own family recognized a growing mythology surrounding Meghan that didn't align with the values that made Diana beloved: compassion, humility, service. He argues that the unraveling of Meghan's public image happened slowly but unmistakably. Hollywood began pulling back as studios weighed controversy against reward. Media outlets that once championed her became more critical. Spotify ended their partnership with unflattering commentary, Netflix scaled down commitments, and public approval began dropping on both sides of the Atlantic. According to Bauer, this wasn't sabotage or conspiracy but a consequence of accumulating inconsistencies and narratives that didn't withstand scrutiny. In his view, the shift wasn't triggered by a single scandal, but by a steady accumulation of contradictions that reshaped how audiences interpreted Meghan's story, one moment, one headline, one discrepancy at a time. Tom Bauer's conclusion is striking. He argues that Meghan's challenges aren't simply about mistakes, but about a pattern of repeated decisions that, in his view, have compounded over time, rewriting narratives, shifting blame, and portraying herself as the victim whenever scrutiny arises. According to Bauer, bridges with the royal family are effectively burned, Hollywood's enthusiasm is waning, and the sympathy narrative that once fueled public fascination has faded. He suggests that the reality of a brand built on careful image crafting is now colliding with the unavoidable truth, and no amount of PR, tearful podcasts, or Netflix specials can fully restore it. Bauer claims that even former defenders and allies are retreating, with friends remaining silent and lifestyle brands and studios keeping their distance, reflecting what he describes as reputational fatigue. In his perspective, Meghan's ultimate challenge won't be a single scandal but gradual invisibility, the spotlight shifting elsewhere and public attention diminishing. He frames it as a cautionary tale, a story of ambition, image, and perception where the pursuit of validation and fame may ultimately undermine the very legacy, influence, and trust that could have been built. For commentators and audiences alike, Bauer's analysis paints a dramatic portrait of a public figure whose narrative, carefully constructed over years, is now under unprecedented scrutiny. As he sees it, the real fallout comes not from one explosive revelation, but from a slow unraveling in plain sight.